welcome to Transcendence. I'm Jessica Alstrom. Susie and I own Transcendence and Wellness Centers, and we do a multitude of different things. But conscious parenting is one of my favorite things to teach, and the reason why is because I think we're all kids. We really are, and we're kids raising kids. And so, although we have these grown-up bodies, there's a lot of things about our kids that we're learning from them because they are actually not your kids, they're your teachers. And if you can look at them every single day and ask them what they are showing you about yourself, it will be the gateway of understanding your whole life. So my approach to conscious parenting is a little bit of psychology, a little bit of quantum physics, a little bit of metaphysics, a little biochemistry, and a lot of intuition. So I'm a little bit of a freak, as most of you know. And the reason why I started teaching conscious parenting was because I was an abused child. And when I started to do my own personal healing journey, what I realized was that, the child that you are is the parent you become. No matter how much you try to deny it, no matter how much work you've done on yourself, no matter how much you try to do the opposite of what your parents are doing, there's still an influence of how you were raised and how you're raising your kids. And by the time I was 20, I already was pregnant with my second child. So I had my first child when I was about 20 years old and pregnant really quick with the second one. And it was a mistake. It was, a byproduct of my environment, basically. And I was still a child. And my daughter's 21 now. And I have a 19-year-old, I have a going on 10-year-old, and I have a 3-year-old. So I have lots of different ages to kind of see where I've been a good mom and where I have messed up. So obviously for my first one, I was a child raising her. So I was very codependent on her. I was I gave her way too much information about my life. I mean, she became my best friend instead of my child. And so she kind of grew up with me. And so by the time I had my 3-year-old, I was parenting completely different. I had studied and healed a lot of my own childhood. I had been life coaching professionally for 5-6 years by the time I had my 3-year-old. So the way that I'm raising my 3-year-old and the way that I raised my first kids is completely night and day. I use a lot of cognitive understanding with kids because there's a lot of messages that are unsaid between parent and child, and I want us to be able to discover that today. The ages that you have your child at right now are very pivotal ages. They're very important stages in their life and development, and how they fall in rank with the other children is quite traumatic, believe it or not. Because think about it. You give birth to this amazing firstborn, and it's the start of your life. It's the first, probably, real taste of unconditional love that you've really felt, right? And the world stops, and you have purpose, and there's so many things that just are born within you. And for the first couple of years, maybe, it's just this unbreakable bond. And then what happens is baby number 2 comes, in most of your cases, and that baby number 2 gets to experience that bliss of that tight bond, while that firstborn now has to find their new place in your life. For a couple of years, there's nothing that child can do wrong. There's nothing that that child would need that you would just give without asking that child to be anything else other than authentic to receive it. Which means when your baby needs a diaper change, you don't say, I'm going to change your diaper if you're being good. You say, I'm going to change your diaper because you need your diaper changed. I'm going to feed you at will. I'm going to do all of these things for you because you can't do them for yourself. And then when a child starts to become this little version of themselves where they can do things, we kind of push them away and start focusing on the next child that needs all of those things. But you may not realize how traumatic that is for the firstborn. There's so much traumatic stories going on in their little tiny brains of like, okay, I used to be everything. And now mom's breastfeeding this little baby and I'm being good over here and I'm not getting any attention. And so I'm going to have to make some noise and I'm going to get some attention, right? And so there's where a lot of the tantrums come from. There's where a lot of the crisis comes in trauma. So I specialize in trauma. I specialize in PTSD. I believe if you had a childhood, you have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Stress is born in the body 3 ways. Chemically, which means Food, preservatives, drugs, vaccines, medications, you know, we do the best we can, but it still affects the brain-body connection. Physical, you know, bumps and bruises. They say the average 7-year-old has fallen and hit their head at least 13,000 times. That's just childhood, right? They've got bruises, they've got bumps. It does affect the neurological system and the nervous system very, very intensely. And then emotional trauma. You know, having a sister born, having mom not come when she says she's going to come, have mom not be there emotionally, physically, or chemically some way. The stopping of the breastfeeding process or the breastfeeding never happening. These are intense traumas for children, and the birth experience can be quite traumatic. Okay? The birth experience alone is probably the most traumatic event that you've ever had, even if your birth was great. Anybody in here have a traumatic birth themselves? C-section, forceps, nothing? Everybody born vaginally healthy? It's suction.
Yeah, it's like a lump
You
on
didn't
my
want to come
head.
out, they're like, come on! Yeah. So that's extremely traumatic. Okay? And there's 5 emotional traumas that really stick with a child and become who you are as an adult. Humiliation, fear, shame, guilt, resentment. Okay? So these are the emotional traumas that children develop by just living in a family dynamic, which means you're a great parent and your child is still traumatized. You could be doing the best job in the whole world and your child is still traumatized. My 3-year-old gets traumatized if he doesn't get the red cup, if his brother got the blue. You know, it's like there's a it's not fair quality about children who fall rank. Now only children, they have their own pile of traumas that occur because they become little adults, don't they? They become really accustomed to mom and dad, or just mom or just dad being their ultimate playmate. And that's not really your highest joy. You know, it's like playing Legos is not always the highest joy, but it's like there's no one else to do that. So they kind of miss a lot of that social connection if they don't have siblings. That the siblings would have to share and follow different rank and order, and there's certainties out of alignment when it comes to their family unit, but they are still kind of learning through other kids. So to understand how the brain works as a baby, okay? And I'm just going to do a little bit of brain work training with you guys so that you understand. Obviously, the first thing that develops in the womb is the what? The heart, okay? So the heart is actually who you are. The brain is something that develops that reminds you of who you are your whole life. It's just there to remind you. But unfortunately, the brain is connected to the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind has been recording since the second of conception. So as soon as that egg is fertilized, the subconscious is running. So whatever happened in the womb, right, becomes part of the personality. So my mom was deathly afraid of everything. She was worried about war, she was worried about getting cancer. I mean, my mom was just that ultimate fear-based person. Like, everything was scary to her. And she also smoked with me while she was pregnant with me. And so I'm in there trying to grow, and I'm already having to have my own challenges in an environment that's supposed to be perfection, okay? So as I was born, right, I was scared to death all the time. Now, is that me, or is that a byproduct of what I've inherited? Because we do have genetics, we do have bloodline, we do have ancestral that all goes into our little personalities. So we have, like I have a lot of adopted friends who have reconnected with their birth parents, and there's a lot of personality similar traits, right?
Yeah.
Carrie, you're adopted, and she met her birth mom, and it was like, oh my God, I'm looking at myself. Not raised by this woman, but personality, right? Little things that were just exactly. So the thing is a lot of that is passed on, and that child is trying to be authentic, right? And it's fighting against mom's influence and dad's influence and siblings' influence, and all they want to do, all children want to do is what? Play. Isn't that what they all want? Isn't that what every argument is about? Just want to play. I want to do what I want to do. It's the way you probably feel at your job today, right? You'd much rather be at the pool. You'd much rather be playing. You'd much rather... So that's why I say we're all still children. So the way that the brain is built is it functions in brain waves. Okay, anybody here familiar with brain waves that's not in my class already? Okay. So I'm just going to go over the 4 basic ones. The 4 basic brain waves that the brain is always moving in and out of is first theta. Okay, now theta is when you're in your imagination. It's when you're in your visualization. It's when you're in a meditation. It's when you're in that space between sleep and awake when you're not judging anything. Do you know that moment right before you fall asleep where you're kind of listening but you're not judging what's going on? It's right before you fall into delta, which is your deep, deep REM sleep. Okay? Now theta is the place that children spend the first 7 years. So they are constantly 1 foot in reality and 1 foot in imagination. And I talk about how my son would much more prefer a 3-year-old to eat vegetables as a T-Rex than as a little boy because it's way more fun. It's like I don't want to be in reality, but if I have to be in reality, I'm going to do it my way, right? That's my son. And so he gets to be whatever he needs to be while he's doing what he needs to do. So that's kind of who we still need to become as parents. A lot of times, parents that have the hardest time with their kids have forgotten to play. They've forgotten what their imagination is. They've forgotten what it's like to be a kid. And they're struggling with their own inability to really create joy and play in their lives. And so there's this little battle that goes on between children and parents. And so the next brain wave is delta, and that is your deep, deep, deep sleep. Okay? And when you get into this space, your immune system turns on, your detoxing systems turn on, your digestive increases, your metabolism increases, and it's like this little cleaning crew is like, good, she's out of the way, she's not thinking, he's not feeling, let's go in and do what we need to do while this body is asleep. And that is why falling into that deep, deep place of sleep is so important for your health. Okay? So if you're not getting there, get with me afterwards because you need to be in there as a parent. And your child needs to be able to get to this space. And this is normal if you don't have a worry mind. Now, if you have the worry brain that's constantly running, when there's nothing even to worry about, but you're worried about what could happen tomorrow, or you're worried about what happened yesterday, then we're going to move into that brain next, because that is your your beta brainwave. And beta is your defense brain, okay? It's when someone talks to you in a tone, and you're trying to analyze what they mean by that, and now you're on the defense instead of really listening. That's where we spend 90% of our time as adults, is in this brainwave. We're constantly on the offense and defense. We're constantly negotiating what people mean by what they say. We're taking things in a different context, and we're constantly on the defense. This is also the brainwave that is fight or flight. Is everybody familiar with fight or flight? Okay. So when our bodies are in fight or flight, let me tell you biologically what's happening if you don't already know. When your brain is in fight or flight, your digestion shuts off. Okay? Your immune system is turned off. Your heart is ramping up. You're dumping adrenaline in your system. You're dumping cortisol in your system. And you are not digesting. You are not having any immunity in your system. And you're not thinking logically. You're thinking defensively. You're thinking survival. Okay? So when you're thinking survival, you're not learning. You're defending your position to survive. And fight or flight was designed to keep you away from danger. That was what it was designed to do. And then as soon as you're out of danger, the body should shift back into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the other side of the nervous system that tells our body, okay, we're safe. Let's digest that food that's sitting in the stomach now. Let's turn that immune system back on. Okay? And if this can never happen because you're constantly worried, then you're going to have allergies. You're going to have sensitivities to food, you're going to have sensitivities to people and places and certain things in your environment because basically your immunity has been turned off because you can't stop thinking. So this is where a lot of parent brain is, right? Because we have so much going on. The new disease of the 20th century is the disease of busy. We are so damn busy that it's almost like we're denying what's the present moment anymore as parents. I mean, have you looked back over your children being bored and been like, wow, that happened so fast, where the hell was I? Okay, I know I felt like that early on, where the moment is, I can't really focus on this moment because I gotta concentrate if my kid's gonna have a panic attack in 2 minutes, or if they're gonna be allergic to this over here, so I can't focus on this present moment. And so what happens is a life full of stress and worry creates our parent brain to go into this brainwave of fight or flight. Now, neurologically, what's happening is you're burning a ton of energy, okay? So a body that's been in fight or flight will develop fibromyalgia, autoimmune disease, Alzheimer's, because you're burning brain energy and body energy so intensely that the body can't keep up. And what is adrenaline? It's acid. Okay, we're no longer running away from a lion. We're sitting there thinking, aren't we? We're sitting there trying to rationalize and examine and find out what the hell we can do to fix the problem, and all we're doing is dumping toxic adrenaline in the system for 24 hours a day. Think about the last argument you had. Just think about it. After the argument was done, did you think about it? Did you ponder it? Did you recycle it? Did you talk to someone about it? Did you talk to 10 people about it? Did you write about it? Did it keep you up at night? Well, I'm going to tell you, from that one interaction, you kept your brain in fight or flight for as long as you held on to that story. Which means that the adrenaline doesn't stop. The number one thing that I see in women as an intuitive, as a medical intuitive, is adrenal fatigue. Okay? The adrenal glands are just burnt out because we are worried all the time. We're worried about what's happened, what could go wrong, which means that we're not really left in the present moment, which is where your child wants to be all the time. Your child wants to be in the present moment. Your child wants to do what that child wants to do in the moment, doesn't care where it has to be in 15 minutes, doesn't care where it was 15 minutes ago, it wants to be where it is now. And as parents, we're trying to rush life because we have to keep our schedule. So, I'm not telling you how to parent, I want to show you through the eyes of your child how they see the world. And then see through your child's eyes, which is you, how you can see the world too. Because there's a part of you that you've lost. And we all have lost part of our child within. Is this making sense so far? So, the other brainwave, the last brainwave that I'm going to talk about today, is gamma. And gamma is that feeling when you hold a new baby. That gamma is unconditional love. It's when you're looking at puppies and watching those YouTube videos and you're just like, oh my God, it's so cute. It's when you're having a conversation with Amber. She just makes you feel all gamma, right? It's like that place of that newborn love. It's that unconditional love. It's the reason why we take drugs. It's because we have a really hard time as adults that are constantly in fight or flight ever feeling that brainwave. That's the brainwave that most people don't get to feel. But children feel that all the time. See, children reside in gamma and theta and alpha. Alpha is when you're learning. It's a learning hypnosis brainwave. When you're watching TV, 10 seconds your brain is in alpha. When you're doing a light meditation, you are in alpha, which means I'm learning, I'm absorbing. Right now this room is in alpha, okay? Unless you're worried and then you're going from fight or flight to alpha, okay? So when we're in alpha, it's that observing and that learning and that sponge. So when your child is playing and they're in theta, okay, and they hear mom and dad fighting, they're going to walk over and be in alpha and they're going to absorb that without judging it. They're not like, should I take that in? No, I'm going to go ahead and take that without really deciding whether or not I want to take that. And the thing about children is because they constantly live in theta and alpha, they are really opened, which means they feel the things you do not say. The things you think you're actually keeping with your kids, they know more about than the things that you say. They do not actually learn from what you say, they learn from how you behave. Your behavior is what dictates who they will become. Now, the way you talk to them will become their inner voice. So that critic that you have that lives in your head that's constantly judging you, that's not you. That's a byproduct of school, the media, mom and dad, society. That is a collective of the peanut gallery that's constantly telling you you're not good enough. So when your children are little, they don't have that, right? They move all the way up and down through the emotional tone scale without really worrying whether they should feel bad, right? Have you noticed the child sitting there thinking, should I feel bad right now? They're just feeling bad. And they're not really deciding whether they should feel guilty for feeling bad. They're just really intuitively saying, this is how I feel. And you're saying, stop feeling that way because I don't like the way it's making me feel. Why do we say to our kids, stop crying? The reason why is because I don't want to see my kid cry. Not that my child shouldn't be allowed to cry. My child should be allowed to cry. But that's what we are taught as parents is we don't want our kids to feel bad. We don't want our kids to suffer. But what if suffering and feeling bad was the way that they learned how to move through that? What if they were allowed to really feel how they felt in the safety of their own home and really be able to come to you and say, I don't know why, but I'm feeling like really bad today. And you not try to fix it. You just be there for them and say, tell me about that. Because we're, as parents, we don't want to feel the pain that our children are feeling because we didn't want to feel the pain that we had to feel as children, right? So these brain waves that I'm talking about, that your children are constantly in, it's unrecognizable to most parents because most parents don't get to live in these places of imagination. You know, you don't get to eat your food as a queen. You've got to eat your food as a mom, probably standing up cold, right? So we have lost that ability to kind of make do with reality and have it be fun. And sometimes when we watch our kids, you know what's really happening? Does anybody have in this room a kid that really just triggers you? Okay, just one? Okay. Okay, so we all have our trigger kid, right? And the trigger kid is a secret message for you. Okay? The trigger kid is the one that is usually loudest, right? And trying to get your attention the most. And what it's sharing with, what this child is actually sharing with you is a big piece of yourself. Because we can promise you that there's something that is you within that child that you're not wanting to look at anymore. It is a version of yourself that you've lost touch with, that needs to be healed, and your child is evaporating that. It's saying, hey, look at me, this is who I am. And it's not, your child is not apologizing for it, are they? Your child's like, here I am, and I don't really care how you feel about it. It's not like how you had to live, where you were like, this is how I feel, but nobody can know. Because in our generation, right, it was not about feeling your feelings. It was about hiding your feelings to fit in the family dynamic so that you could get loved, right? So you could be loved. You had to find where you fit, and maybe you learn how to manipulate your way around that dynamic so that you could still entertain your life the way you wanted it to, but it was all through basically secrets. And so our children, these new children, they are not apologizing for who they are. And it's really uncomfortable for us. Because they are not saying, okay, I need to behave, I need to conform. They don't understand conformity. They don't understand that they're not allowed to feel their feelings openly at any time that they want. And they don't really care how you feel about it. And that's really hard coming from our generation where we had to basically stop being authentic before we were 7 years old to fit in our families. There's the conflict right there. That's where you're having the issues with your kids. You've forgotten to play. You've forgotten what it looks like to be this little kid who is open and ready for anything. And now you have just manifested a child into your life that is your kid that is saying, here I am, and I'm ready to teach you how to be a kid again. Does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions yet? Is it making sense to you guys? I know they all. It's a sick of me already. So tell me a little bit about what triggers you with your kids.
Well, the middle one is always, well, both of them are always seeking the attention, like you said. My youngest one does not want to be anywhere but beside me. Okay, always demanding that time. And no matter how much I give to either of them, it's never enough.
So you have two barnacles.
Yes. Okay. And my oldest is the quietest that is happy to do whatever.
Right.
Peacemaker and and the middle one is just very, he shows his emotions and it's always very intense.
Yep.
Either happy or sad.
Right.
And it's like you never know what's going to trigger him.
Right.
And it just, and I know I have a control issue, and so that's part of it is that I don't know what to do to help him because I don't want to.
So he's teaching you to give up a little bit more control,
yes,
right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Any health issues?
No.
My second one, very similar to her second one. My oldest is a son, even keel, easy kid to parent, and then along came Jenna.
That first one, man, they're angel, weren't they?
Strangely enough, she was the perfect baby, nursed perfectly, slept, perfect baby, and then she hit 3, and it was on.
Okay.
And I mean, I have a lot of heat and fire to my personality, and she has 100 times my heat and fire. She could have 23 hours and 45 minutes of my time, and she could still bitch, piss, and moan about those 15 minutes she didn't get.
Okay.
We can go have an entire, so I have a boy, girl, boy.
Okay.
and Jenna and I can go and do girl things and have a wonderful day. Or getting in the car coming back from Panera, pick whatever we did that day. And all of a sudden, mood changes. She's gloomy, she's pissed off, the world sucks, and all these people in the world suck too. And then what's going on? Well, now because we're gonna have to go home, and you're gonna hang out with Jackson, and then we've got a little guy that's almost 2, and then you're gonna be with Jameson, and then I won't get to hang out with you anymore.
Aww.
I mean, she's funny, she's a smart ass, she's got a great ability to read people, so I so enjoy her. But
she's got to share you, yeah.
Yes, but little things that I would think she would throw a fit about, she lets roll off of her, and little things that seem totally insignificant. It is a yelling, screaming, crying, I hate you, I hate this family, I want a new family. You know, it's full force. It's all in your face. And she makes me feel like a bad mom.
Mm-hmm.
And 90% of the time, I feel like I can keep it together. But there's that 10% of the time where we're yelling at each other. And in my head, I'm thinking, this is not what I want. She's 6 years old. This is not what I want. But she makes me so crazy. I want to. There have been times I've told my husband, you're going to have to go deal with this because mommy needs a timeout, or I'm going to want to beat the shit out of her.
Right.
I don't.
We've all been there, I think.
I want to. And it's almost like I wouldn't even feel bad that she's crying because I'm hurting her. I'd be like, I know that's messed up.
No.
Sometimes that goes through my head. And then those are the times where I'm like, I need to go sit on the front porch, or I need to take a little walk or something like that. But it's like she loves you with everything she's got, but then when she's mad, she gives that to you.
So she's passionate in all areas.
Yes. Perfect in school, smart as a whip. It's like she saves all that shit up for when she comes home. That's what she does.
Does your husband get this too, or is this mainly focused on you?
He gets it a little bit, but not nearly like me.
Okay.
But the weird part is, I love, like you guys all do, I love all of my kids, I think, the same.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a certain degree, I'm protective of all my kids, but I was telling the girls yesterday, I don't know how to explain this very well, but she makes me the craziest, but I love her with almost more ferocity. I'm more ferociously protective of her, which makes no sense really, because I would think that because she pisses me off so frequently, I would be less likely to feel that way. But yet, I am more mama bear towards her and her feelings and all of that, more about her than I am the other two.
Right.
Even though she makes me crazy.
But she's the most like you, right?
In a lot of ways, yes.
Yes.
But she makes me crazy.
Okay. I feel that. I think we all feel that. Actually, it's a lot of passion. Just like mom, yes. So tell me a little bit about your guy.
I have a little girl.
Oh, little girl.
She is 4, and she was a perfect baby. Like I'm an optometrist, and I started my own practice 5 months after she was born, basically. So it was kind of like I went through that whole process with her.
Okay.
She's a great kid. She's totally my kid.
Mm-hmm.
But when she turned 3, she got feisty, and she's sassy, and when she loves you with all herself, but when she's mad, she's a little fireball.
Mm-hmm.
So there are moments where she triggers me, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's to the degree that,
Right. You're going to have more?
I'm hoping to.
One more?
We'll see.
This is
Clock's ticking.
Clock's ticking. One more thing about Jenna. This is how this brain works. I got a lot of unloading to go
That's
through.
more, good, yes.
I'm a physician, and my parents watch our kids when we're working, when they're not in school. It's a very good situation. My kids are real close to my nose. It's a nice situation. But Jenna is still doing this. For the last several years, when people, a normal question that you ask little kids, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? When people ask her that question, even though perhaps you're asking me, instead of looking at you, she looks at me and she goes, when I'm big and I have little kids, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom, so I never have to leave them ever. And I'm going to homeschool them so they never have to be away from me ever. What kid says that?
The new kids. These new kids. And let me tell you a little bit, let me tell you what I mean about these new kids, because it's like I'm sure you read by now that the world is changing and waking up, and now meditation and all these things is a household thing, when 10 years ago it was voodoo, right? What I mean about that is we're just in a process of evolution, and for evolution to be really fast moving, then somebody's got to come here with some different ideas, because we couldn't evolve on the planet if somebody didn't come here thinking a different way, because we are really, really collectively like a hive mind. It's monkey see, monkey do. And collectively, we see patterns and behaviors and we get so influenced by that becomes our personality. And before you know it, there's an entire population that thinks and feels the same way. And, as we've evolved scientifically, we always haven't used a lot of our logical, loving side of that to protect ourselves from destroying ourselves, basically. Because we're like, oh, if we can create it, let's build it. How do you think they did nuclear weapons? So anyways, this planet was really on a fast track to kind of destroy itself. And evolution, because life finds a way, decided that, it's time to change the things up. So this new generation, basically, and it's been a slow start. Think about life on the planet all the way up into the 40s, okay? Children born in the 40s began to behave differently than children anywhere in time. Now these children in the 40s started to come with different ideas. It wasn't a society could handle what their message was, but look who they would be in the 60s. Look at those 20-year-old kids now. What were they saying? What were they talking about? What were they trying to accomplish? It was a revolution. It was unconditional free love. Let's just love each other. Let's stop this war. It's like all of a sudden, all these little children from the 40s decided that they were going to think and be a different way. And after that, every generation has been a little bit more aware. Even you guys are a lot more aware than your parents, yes? The ideas that you just came forth with are a lot more cutting edge than saying how mom and dad felt. In their generation, child abuse was not that uncommon. In our generation, it's like, hell no. We're going to call the police. In your parents' generation, the police were not called. Did you know that? Things were not spoken. Family laundry was not discussed. It's like now, someone looks at your kid wrong, someone's calling 911. So you can just see the evolution of the times of how aware we've become. And if we're really going to change the world, then each generation has to come with more and more awareness and more inner strength. We can't be people pleasers in this generation. Our children cannot be really people pleasers all the way and make it anymore, because they'll get stepped all over. That's kind of why we're in this position that we're in, is we were those kids that kind of conformed and went with the flow, even though it felt wrong, even though it didn't really feel authentic to us, we still kind of went because we wanted to be loved in our family dynamics. And so we gave a lot of ourselves away. And even the job that you're in today, you may love it, but is it completely expanding who you are on every level? Maybe yes. I know that Kara was she's a Children's Mercy cancer nurse. And you've been doing it for how long?
It was 16 years in September.
Right? And when I first met you, I was like in awe, because that's a saint right there to be able to work with those kids that may not make it every day. But there was a piece of her that was waiting to come out. And there was a child in her, she was an adopted kid, that really needed its voice and its strength. And so we've been working together, and she's already seeing how she's growing away from what she's doing for a living and wants to expand and help those kids more and in a different way. Using some of this understanding that she's learning, that she's finding within herself. This is a nurse who now goes home and meditates every night, right? Instead of goes home and just kicks her feet up and watches TV until she passes out. So, I think that we're all, as parents, still having those hopes and needs within us. And our children are just louder about it. They're not going to apologize about it. And if your children need attention, they're not afraid to ask for it. I think that's what I'm hearing today. Attention can work both ways with a kid. Children actually get more attention if they misbehave. They do. Because if I'm breastfeeding my son, right, right? And my 6-year-old is over here playing and she's behaving, and she's not getting my attention. But if she starts, sticking a fork in a light socket, I'm going to put that baby down and I'm going to go over there and be like, what's going on? And she's going to be like, Mom is looking at me, right? And so this is how they develop their relationship to connect with you. And the louder the tantrum, right, the more attentive you have to become. Because as social creatures, we don't want the tantrum. We want to do everything avoidable we can do in order to stop the tantrum from happening. And so what happens is we actually allow our child to win the argument, don't we? Most of the time. And when we let the child win the argument, then we are now in the child's seat and we are being parented by our kids. And that's kind of what happens in in this particular generation. I think we're all kind of around the same ages here. And what happens is we are kind of raised with confrontation, so we don't even want confrontation from our kids, do we? We don't want that tantrum, we don't want them to cry, we don't want them to feel bad, we don't want them to feel left out. And so a lot of our time is spent maybe saying no, but feeling the pressure of saying no, or figuring out how we can solve the problem later in our minds, and it's all consuming. And so we have this generation of these barnacle kids who don't know how to play by themselves. They don't know how to be by themselves. They don't know how to be independent to themselves. They don't know how to create themselves. And this is the generation that we've created entitlement. Have you heard that before? Mm-hmm. So what is entitlement? Entitlement is a child that is not in gratitude. That's it. So gratitude is actually one of the highest frequencies, okay, if you understand frequency and vibration. It is the gamma frequency that I was talking about in the brainwave of unconditional love. When you are in gratitude, you don't get much higher than that. It's gratitude and unconditional love, which is the most extreme emotion you can experience on the planet, in a body, okay? So it's gratitude and unconditional love. And you guys have worked hard to be grateful for the lives that you've had, but we've done one mistake with our kids, is we have over-nurtured them. We have nurtured them to the point of we don't want them to feel bad, that they don't know how to feel good on their own. They don't know how to self-soothe. They don't know how to be self-independent. And I'm not saying all of your kids, because some kids are intuitive to that. Usually it's the firstborn that knows how to get their stuff done. And because they had to more, they had to be more, they actually had to be more of a parent. The firstborn usually tends to be the great maternal instinct, because they kind of are, you're so scared of them that they kind of have to help you along. And then by the second one, all hell breaks loose, because they're like, I don't need to help you. Mom's done this before, so I can break all the rules, right? I know that's how it was in my family. My 21-year-old is more of a mother than I am. And my 19-year-old is the middle child syndrome. Look at me, it's all about me, what's going on with me, right? And so it's about the entitlement that we really need to change. And I don't believe in discipline, okay? I believe in contribution. I believe in consequences. That's what I believe in. Because, for a long time I was married, and my husband would literally smack my son's butt and say, "Don't hit your brother." And I'm like, okay, that's such a contradiction. It's like, don't hit your brother, so because you hit your brother, I'm going to hit you. And that was so ingrained intuitively to the way he was raised. He's like, but how else am I going to get his attention? But I'm like, okay, but that's solving a problem with a problem. But that's literally a lot of parents do. It's like, I'm going to do to you what you've done to someone else to show you not to do it. What you're doing is we're creating an army of bullies, okay? And what my son started doing is he started bullying something smaller than him because he was being bullied, and that's how it happens. Is someone weaker or smaller will get the wrath of how they're being treated. So if your child is being bullied, you will find that they are bullying someone else to basically get through that energy. Yes?
But I have a question about that, because I have had, I had a good childhood, good parents. But I remember getting spanked on the butt a few times, and I did not then go on to bully other people. That is, I always feel like that is the last resort, don't get me wrong. There's lots of other better avenues. I also think there are some kids that you can do timeout.
Yes,
You can do redirection. You can You know, I'm big on consequences too. So I mean, if you do this, then you
Right.
all of those things. But there's always that kid that the only way you can get them to focus and actually listen with a pop on the tush.
Okay.
And I don't feel like that
No,
creates.
the pop on the tush is not abusive. It's a reminder. It's like, wake up. It's
Yeah.
like, get back in your body and be here with me now. I'm not saying that that is bad.
Okay.
I'm saying when it becomes humiliating.
Okay.
So it was one of those 5 emotions.
Okay.
Like if the child is feeling guilt or shame or humiliated or afraid or resentful towards you from some sort of physical action, that's going to create a trauma.
Okay.
I'm not saying, hey, because I've done that with my son. I'll be sluttering along and I'll just be like, come on, let's get moving. That's not emotionally abusing him or physically abusing him. See, the thing is when we degrade our children is when they become bullies, not when we remind our children.
Okay.
And there are some kids that get so out of their body and out of their consciousness that literally they need to be brought back in manually. I'm totally an advocate of that. You know, because some of our kids are so sensitive and they have such big personalities that once they start on that tangent, they cannot pull themselves back in. And that's when I will literally drop to my knees or just stand up because I'm 5 feet tall and look directly into my 3-year-old's eyes. And I will literally get down to that level with them and I will hold his shoulders and I will, like with force, and I will say, I am here, I am listening, I'm right here, tell me how you're feeling. Because so many parents don't want their kids to feel, so they're going to just hold them and say, don't cry, everything's going to be okay, and get with me, and it's like all deflecting the feelings. But how about just really getting there and saying, I am with you in this, tell me how you're feeling. And when you hold on to the body, you are literally transmitting that energy, but you've got to like hold your position. You know, you can't be scared. They smell it. Like they feel it. They can call your bluff. And if you're tired or, you know, if you had a long day, the last thing that you want to do is confront a child that's having a tantrum. So I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the bullying comes from the humiliation and the guilt and shame. Like my husband would say, you know, he would say something kind of dig while he was doing it. It was almost like, you know, how do you like it when that happens? And it was just degrading, and I could feel that. So my son, he's 3, he goes to one of the best Montessori schools that I could find in town. I mean, I did my research because I'm in the process of opening up my school and it's not ready, so I was like, he's got to start school. I found the best school I could find. It's Montessori. It's a pretty good program. So he comes home yesterday, or no, not yesterday, 3 weeks ago. Days run to each other with me. And he sits in the car, and that's our time. It's like my favorite time of the day. I get to hear his 3-year-old stories of how his day was, and it's hilarious, and I wish I had video with camera because it's amazing. So we're driving home, and I go, how was your day? And he dropped his head on his shoulders, and he goes, I didn't make good choices. Aww. And I was like, it was the cutest thing that I've ever heard. But immediately my conscious parenting thing clicked, and I was like, whoa, wait a second. And I said, well, what happened? And he was like, I ran through the sprinkles instead of doing story time. And I was like, well, that sounds way more fun, right? I mean, to me. And so that just was eating at me. And I was like, okay, so they're basically teaching you at school to conform, to not have fun, and that if you make choices that are intuitive or spontaneous, you're not making good choices. So I had an issue with that. So of course, next morning, I go to the school and I said, so my son's been saying he's been making these choices, and she's like, yes, that's how we teach them. If they're making happy choices, if they're making bad choices, and I'm like, well, who's determining whether these are good choices or bad choices? And she was like, well, you know, we've got to keep the kids on schedule, and they've got to do, and I understand that, I'm a teacher, you know, I want everybody here on time. But at the same thing, he's 3, he's not 13. He's 3, and it's right now, he is in that first 7 years of figuring out who the hell he is. You know, and if someone tells him that his intuitive choices was a bad choice, is that going to break his intuition later? Is that going to change him from spontaneously going out and starting a company because everyone's telling him that that's not circle time? You know, it's like, I really sat with that. Most parents would have just looked over that. But I actually went to the teacher and I said, well, you know, I do a lot of conscious parenting. Could we rename that? And she was like, well, what are you talking about? I said, instead of making good choices, could we call them team choices? I need you to make team choices today. And then that teaches him how to be part of a team, instead of he's making a bad choice. So if I make team choices, then what I'm doing is I am being part of a group, and I'm interacting with the group, and when it's my time to play, then my time is I can do the choices that I want, but when I'm working with my team. And she was like, that's amazing. And I said, see, the thing is, it's a subtlety when you're doing cognitive therapy, because I work with hundreds of people each week, and we do childhood regression, and these are the little traumas. So he's going to grow up his whole life thinking he's making bad choices because he wanted to run through the sprinkler instead of sitting listening to the same story 100 times. And I don't want him to break that quality with himself. So in my house now, we have team choices, right? And so because what I realized is that his dynamic at school is the same as at home, and he doesn't want, when he comes home, he doesn't want to do his chores, he doesn't want to do this. So I say it's time to make our team choices. Because if you do this for me, then I can do this for you because we're a team. So what I'm doing is I'm stop creating these entitled individuals that are on their own mission, that have their own MO and will manipulate you at any way they can to do what they want to do and be part of a team again. So the one thing that I did right with my older girls was I really taught them to contribute. It was like there was nothing going to come out of my body that wasn't received by them, which means that I wasn't going to drive them anywhere, I wasn't going to do their laundry, I wasn't going to wash their dishes unless they gave me something in exchange. Because when you go to a job, you don't ask for your paycheck and don't show up all week, do you? So what I wanted to do is I wanted to create individuals that understood contribution. Because if they don't understand contribution, and we entitle them, right? We create the entitlement because we've over-nurtured them because we were under-nurtured. Our generation was under-nurtured. Maybe not you, but a lot of us, right? We're under-nurtured, and therefore we have a tendency to over-nurture our children because we're trying to get that balance back, okay? It's mostly for us. It's mostly for us. It's not so much for them. But once we've done that, then they expect it. If you have codependent kids, it's because you created that somewhere, not because they created it. Your children are really trying to get away from you since the second they're born. They're literally trying to have their own experience, but sometimes we don't let them until we teach them how we need them to be, and then they don't know how to do it for themselves anymore. They don't know how to feel good by themselves. They don't know how to do things by themselves. And we've created that by loving them too much. That's our only problem. We've just loved them too much. It's not that we've made a mistake, but we've created the entitlement where we say, go do this, and they don't do it, and we still give it because we want to see them happy, right? And I know I've done it. You know, it's like you want your kid to be happy so you don't follow through. But if you don't follow through, then what they learn is that mom's going to do it anyways, or mom's going to create my fun, or mom's going to do this, or dad's going to do this. And then what happens is they never want to leave your side because they don't know how to find that independence and that self-nurturing by themselves. I call it a light switch. They need you to be the light for them. They need you to be that security blanket for them. You know, in our generation, we had the security blankets. Now we've become the security blankets for our kids. You know, I mean, Katie's dealing with a situation where her kids are going back and forth to mom and dad's house, and they're calling her on Friday night, can I go home early? You know, because they want to be with mom. You know, and that's really hard for her because she wants them to have their independence and get to know their dad the way that they need to get to know. That was okay, I shared that. So, I mean, we're all in this together. Does that make sense? So how we can break entitlement, or how we can break that codependency on them, is to start really, first and foremost, creating an exchange process, which is, you know what, I will sit here with you and play with you, but this is what I need you to do for mommy, right? And it's not about chores, it's about teamwork. So the one thing that I say is when my son is having a tantrum at the dinner table, I'm like, we need to have team choices right now because everyone needs to finish their food. You can have your tantrum after dinner. He's like, okay. And then he will totally forget about it. You know what I mean? It's like, because kids love routine. They really thrive in routine. Wouldn't you agree, Doctor? Mm-hmm. Right? And as children need routine, just sticking in that teamwork will bypass a lot of individuals that are going psychotic in your house. It's like you can be whoever you want when we're not doing teamwork. You know, and you can even integrate the teamwork and bring their brothers into that team, so it's not like her against her family, right? So it's like when we're all together, we're having teamwork, we're doing team play. This is a unity. So what I have my son do is he's 3, so his job is to take the towels into the closet. I mean, it takes him a year, they unfold, it's a nightmare. But it's part of his job. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm gonna refold all of these. But it's like, he gets so much joy. Have you guys noticed how much joy your little guys get from helping? And we as parents sometimes sabotage that because they're doing it wrong, it's taking too long, we're so damn busy, we'd rather just do it ourselves. And so we're just like, take the towels and we just go. But I let them do it, and then the older girls, they do the dishes, and you're like, oh, there's peanut butter on there. You just let them do it, right, because they're helping, and they're sweeping, and this is all teamwork, because the thing is if they want to sit down and play with you, or go to lunch with you, or do all of these things, they don't realize, and it's not because they're not aware, it's because you have taught them that all the billion of things that you do are not that important. You know, like my 10-year-old, she came back from her dad's from LA, and she's like, really want this new toy. And I'm like, awesome. So we're gonna do some chores, and this is how much money it is. And I'm like, don't have that right now. And she's like, just use a credit card. And I'm like, exactly. You know what I mean? Because they don't really understand that behind the scenes how much we are doing so that they're happy. They have no idea. So if you actually share with them your world, like, did you guys know that this is my day? Did you guys know that I do this, and then I have to stop what I'm doing to do this with you, and this and this. So what I need for you to do is help me do my job so I can help you do yours. What'll happen is they'll be like, mom's jobs are no fun. I really don't want to do that, so I'm gonna let her go over there and I'm gonna start playing by myself. And you do it all through contribution. You're not doing it by tough love, you're not doing it by pushing them into something else, because they'll just run back to you like barnacles. They're literally like, you know? And you just have to look at where your kids are entitled, because children don't tantrum after the age of 5 unless they're entitled. They don't. They don't. If they have a really good balance of giving and receiving, you know, like my older girls, one's 21, one's 19, and I've luckily, intuitively, just done this with them their whole life. I think it was because I was a single mom for so long and we had to be a team. Like my daughter would call me and say, hey mom, I need like $50 for books, I'm getting ready to start and I'm short. And I'm like, cool. She's like, before I can even say something, she's like, I will detail your car and I will watch Luke one night. Like she's already thought of, she doesn't have the money, but she's already thought of how she can contribute to my life so that I can abundantly help her. And that's just her now. My 19-year-old's like calling Katie, like, I'm going to California, do you need me to babysit? It's not like, mom, we're going to California, can I have some pocket change? It would never even come out of their mouth. Now my 10-year-old, I have to share her with her dad in Los Angeles. And every time she comes home, I don't know anybody else who's sharing kids, but it's like breaking a stallion every time. It's like she comes home and it's like she's this entitled princess who doesn't have any chores or any responsibilities, and so for like 2 weeks I have to get her back into team play. See, the thing is when kids are rooted and they have roots and wings and they're part of a team, it's a flawless community their family is. It's not a bunch of individuals screaming for independent attention. It is, oh, okay, so I had mom, and part of being a team is letting mom have my brother right now, you know? But the awareness has to change, and she has to find her own light switch, which means there has to be some self-soothing. So a lot of times, you know, I'll sit with my child who's 10, because she's my trigger kid, and she'll just be depressed for no reason, you know? And I'll sit with her and I'll say, tell me 10 things you're grateful for. She'll go, well, my friends and my toys. I'm like, no. Tell me 10 things you're grateful for about yourself. Because our children with the greatest energy and passion are the hardest on themselves, okay? When they say they hate you, what they're saying is I hate myself. They're not telling you they hate you. They love you more than anything. They're saying right now, I don't know how I'm feeling and I hate myself, but I don't want to say that, so I'll say I hate you because it'll stimulate you and you will come to me and soothe me. So what I say is, give me 10 things that you are grateful for about yourself, and she'll be like, you know. And she'll get to like 5, and I'll see her energy shift. And by the time she's 10, she's like, yeah, I love my hair, right? She's like that little girl on YouTube, I love my family, I love my life. And by the time we get to 10, she's up. And all I did was show her how that she can love herself through gratitude. You know, because a lot of times our kids are so hard on themselves. See, these new kids are a blessing and a curse. They're so freaking intelligent that they are really, really critical of themselves, okay? And so being grateful, showing them how to be grateful for themselves and what they do contribute and how much they do help you and the things that they do right, it's like your husband. Sorry, Craig. But you gotta kind of, you gotta constantly, it's the affirmation piece. It's like, okay, so before I teach also compassionate communication. And I invented this for men, right? Because they get so on the defense when you talk to them about things. It's probably our tone that pisses them off. But what I've developed is this kind of, when you want to get anything done around your house, instead of going in and triggering the ego, because everyone has one, you actually go into appreciation first. So, like you go to your kid, like I go to my 10-year-old and I notice that she hasn't cleaned her bathroom in 2 weeks, okay? So I'm like, oh gosh. So most moms would walk downstairs and be like, hey, this bathroom hasn't been done in 2 weeks, what's going on, blah, 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 get it done or grounded, right? Just me, I'll go sit on her bed and I'll go, so I just want to tell you that I so appreciate you helping me with Luke last night so I could go on the treadmill. I have no idea how much I appreciate you playing with him. And I'm so proud that you've been eating well since you've been home from Dad's, and blah, 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 blah. And so what's going on with your bathroom? And she'll go, I don't want to. And I'm like, okay, well, other people have to use that. So what can we do to make that fun? You see how I'm not belittling her, I'm not shaming and guilting her, I'm not creating fear, I'm not humiliating her. I am literally first and foremost building her way up so she will not go on the defense with me. And then I will actually find out what's going on. Because a lot of times when your kids are not doing what they're supposed to do, it's a message for you. It's like, I'm not getting the attention that I want, and so I need you to notice me. It's that 2-year-old that's watching you breastfeed your newborn. It's trying to get your attention. And so when you see something that's out of alignment with behavior, it's usually about needing some sort of attention, but not all of your attention. Balanced attention. Like, kids do best when they're balanced. When we have really bipolar acting kids, we have to kind of look in the mirror and say, what are they mirroring for us? Where am I not self-nurturing? You know, a lot of moms too, and dads, will give up their entire lives for their kids. I'll tell you, that's the worst thing you could do. When your children become your entire world, you lose yourself. And when you lose yourself, they will get more clingy to show you that you've lost yourself. You know, and when your children become everything to you and you don't have that individual love for yourself and that alone time, then what starts to happen is you become in this entangled relationship with your kids where it's not balanced. You need time alone. You need time with your girlfriends or your husband. You know, and a lot of times the husband takes the second rank as soon as the babies are born, and then they're trying to fight for attention too, and they're behaving just like the children. Sorry, Greg. But it's true, right?
Yeah.
Because we kind of are like, oh, I love you so much, honey, and we're going to spend the rest of our lives together, and then this baby's born, and you're like, move over, sucker. You know what I mean? It's literally like that, and everything changes for them. And they're just sitting there like, I used to be the baby, you know? And we expect them to just understand how we're feeling. Because we're like, well, hello, there's this child here now that like needs all of me, so that means you don't get all of me anymore. But they don't understand that, you know? And so a lot of times if you're having conflicts with your husband, it's only about them needing attention too. It's not about, you know, anything other than that. And if we have really, really entitled kids or really, really needy kids, then I can guarantee you there's either a quiet or a loud, needy husband. There's also a needy mom. Like, your children are your greatest reflections. They will mirror back to you everything that you hide about yourself. Your child will contain your secrets. That's one thing that I have learned. If each one of my children are showing me something that I have been hiding from myself all along, that I've been wanting to deny, and that's when I get triggered. Okay? So maybe there's a part of you that wants more of your attention. Maybe there's a part of you that wants to spend more time with you. And she's showing you what you can't see in the mirror because you're giving yourself to everyone else. You know, I'm sure as a physician, you're not exactly not busy, right? And then you've got 3 kids. So does anybody have any questions? Does this sound crazy? Questions, comments, concerns?
So how do you decide, you know, I think this is interesting about the over-nurturing thing, because that is, I mean, that's interesting. I wouldn't have thought that was even really possible to sort of over-love your child. So very interesting. How do you know that you're sort of over-nurturing your child if you have that barnacle child that is, you know, throwing tantrums and not being grateful and acting entitled? Then that's your sign that, hey, I'm
Over-nurturing.
over-nurturing this child.
Yes. Because here's what the soul wants. I'm going to go spiritual here for a minute. Your soul came here for a very specific reason, to learn about itself and to be independent and create their life. They did that. That's what they want. And as soon as they learn to walk, they're ready to do that. They're ready to self-discovery, self-awareness, self-love, all these things. But if they are not able to really self-discover for themselves outside of you, then their self-love turns into mommy's love. They don't connect with self-love, which means that the only way they can be happy is if they're with you or doing something they love doing. Every other time of the day, they're miserable, okay? And I call it the light switch, because all of us have an inner light. We all have an inner spirit and an inner oneness about ourselves. And through time and trauma and life and growing up, most of us have connected with that. Okay, we know who we are inside. And if you don't ever give that ability to your child to self-discover that, then they never know where their light switch is, and they need you to constantly be that directing force of their life. Like, they can't move without you, they can't breathe without you, they can't do without you. And what their soul is saying is, I'm actually pissed at you because you won't let me do this by myself. You won't let me help, you won't let me do this, and you won't let me fall down, because we're deathly afraid of our kids falling down. It's like, do you guys let your kids ride the bikes until the street lights come on? Heck no. Right? Because we don't think it's safe, yet we did it. So over-nurturing is not giving them too much love. That's impossible. You cannot give your child too much love. You can do too much for your child. That's what I mean about over-nurturing. It's like babying them to the point where they are not able to fall down and make bad decisions. Like, one thing that I do with my kids is I never give advice. The reason why is because, especially my older girls, they knew me when I was not who I am today. I was a crazy person, okay? So if I start giving advice now, I'm a hypocrite. And if kids are not listening to what you say and they're watching what you do, please do not advise your children, because you're hypocrites. Everything that you're telling your child not to do, you're probably doing. Right? You're having your own tantrums. You want what you want, don't you? You want to play. You don't want it. So it's like when your children if you start advising a child and telling a child how to be and what to do and how to think and how to feel, that child is literally going to start resenting you. But the child doesn't have tools to be on its own, so it needs to be with you. So it becomes this real dysfunctional relationship between child and parent, where it's like they can't not be with you because they don't know how to do it by themselves, but their soul is literally like pissed at you because you won't let them do it by themselves. So, like, I remember this one night, my daughter was 16 and she was going out with her boyfriend, and my husband at the time was kind of like, are you gonna just let her do that? I'm like, yep. He's like, but she could this, the worry brain I was talking about. I'm like, yep. And I'm here today and I did all those things. And look at how much more aware I am about life. Because the falling down part is the thing you're afraid of. You're afraid of your kids falling down and being hurt. You're afraid of your kids falling down and emotionally getting hurt. You're afraid of anything going on with your kids. So you over-nurture them. You helicopter them. And not in a way where you're micromanaging every move, but your influence is too strong. Children need two things, roots and wings, which they need to feel safe where they are, but they need to get pushed out of the nest and know they can come home anytime. Okay? So those are the two things that kids need to really be able to connect with that little force inside of themselves. Because if they're just connecting with the force within you, you're going to have barnacle for the rest of your life that's actually going to resent you. Your kid is going to be pissed at you. You're going to be like, I do everything for you. And then you become the martyr, right? You become the martyr mom who's like, nobody appreciates what I do around here, and nobody sees what I do. The thing is to do less with them and for them, and love them more. So I love my kids more by letting them experience things that they need to experience and fall down. Now, by you guys being good parents, they're not going to do the crazy things we did. The reason why we did the crazy things that we did probably is because we were so like under thumb, and we had to become these versions of ourselves that we didn't want to be, that we like went and had our grown-up tantrums. You know, it's like that's all it is. This is a form of a tantrum of a child basically saying to me, "You said I can't do it, which means I'm going to do it." But if you kind of get more neutral about your parenting and like, it's okay to fall. It's okay for you to sit there by yourself. You're safe. I'm gonna be right here. And while I'm over here making your food, if you could fold this laundry for me. Because then they're still connected to you, but it's now contribution. See, when the contribution goes away, your kids get nuts. Because the reason why you're on the planet is service. You're actually here to be of service to other people and to love yourself. That's why you're here. So when a child can't be of service, then all of a sudden they need to be serviced. That's it. Is as soon as this service goes out of the family, then it's all about me. You need to service me. And that is gratitude is one frequency. And on the other side of the spectrum, one is positive. The negative frequency is entitlement. Entitlement, gratitude is here. So I really manually push my 10-year-old into gratitude quite a bit because she has a tendency to forget, because when she goes to dad's house, it's all about entitlement. So when she's at my house, it's gratitude. Doesn't mean that we're praying about everything, but we're just like, I'm so grateful that the farmer's market was open today and we could get these fruit. And then I'm saying to my kids, do you know what it takes to grow this? Like when I show my kids YouTube, a lot of times I show them like what it actually takes to get a meal grown versus to put it on a table, because they have no reality like we did. We go to the store, we get our food, right? You have a plastic credit card, it buys toys. There's no understanding of what things take, and so there's no respect. There's no respect that you're up and working 8 hours a day and going to work and folding laundry and preparing meals. All I know is they don't want to eat the meal that you prepared after a long day. And that's when you start resenting your kids. Because at the end of the day, you're still kids. And you want to play. And you have these amazing kids to play with. And so if you can get them on your team to understand what it is that you do for them, and then have them contribute to that, and have them be of service, they will totally lose their entitlement.
How do you get to that point though? How do you sort of break that cycle of, like my daughter or anybody's kid here, throwing that fit and all this kind of stuff, or yes, cooking dinner and I don't want to eat this, and and it is hard not to be resentful
Right.
sometimes.
So what I would say to her is,
that?
first of all, when your child is lost in that really dark place, okay? I always say this, and this is a little inappropriate, but I say never get into a pissing contest with a kid, because they will win. Okay? So this is what I do. If one of my kids just totally full-blown loses it, I actually remove them from the family, because that's not teamwork. And I allow them to have their tantrum in their alone time. They can act exactly how they want to be. They can feel exactly who they want to feel like, but it needs to be in their own space so that it's not affecting the rest of the family. Which means you're allowed to be whoever you choose to be, but you got to do it in your room. And when you are more of yourself, then let's have a chat. And what will happen is, 15 minutes will go by, and they'll be pounding on the door because they're really trying to get you to come in, and they're saying, I hate you, and all this stuff. And you just go and you do your thing, right? And you go and you take your time out, Mom. But then what will happen is either they'll fall asleep, which is probably what they needed because they're usually overtired, okay? Or they'll come to you and be like, right? And the next time your daughter says to you, I don't like what's for dinner, say, okay, so I need you to show up in the kitchen at 7 o'clock on Sunday night for cooking class. Because if you don't like what's for dinner, you better learn how to cook. Contribution service. It's like, stop taking it personally. Your kids are really not trying to piss you off or hurt you. They just don't like what they like. So, that happened last week to my daughter. She needs to be gluten-free and she needs to be dairy-free because she has seizures, okay? When she goes to Dad's house, it's a free-for-all, and when we come back, I gotta start all over again. So I had gluten-free pasta the other night. She comes into the kitchen and she's like, I wanted the regular pasta and Dad has it in his house. And I'm like, okay, so do me a favor right now and actually go pull up YouTube on the TV in the kitchen and type in how to make pasta from scratch. And so she's watching it and she's like, how many hours does this take? And I'm like 60. It's not like a 2-hour process. And I said, so if you want the regular pasta, okay, then you have to use organic ingredients for me to be able to know what's safe for your body, and you've got to make it yourself, and I can't help you. She's like, I need the gluten-free pasta, right? Yeah. Teamwork. It's like, put them in the responsibility of what they're complaining about. It's It's like they want you to take them someplace, say, okay, so this is gonna actually take me about 25 minutes to take you to and from the movies. So for the next 25 minutes, give me back rub. They'll be like, what? And then they'll just be so excited. Because really what they want to do is they want to contribute. You know what I mean? And you make it like this, and so very soon, yes, you have to practice. Yes, you have to stop your behavior, because your behavior is on co-pilot now. You are literally just on a circuit with her. When she freaks out, you behave how you behave, and then only time can resolve things. So if you start showing up differently, and you see how everything I just said was really like neutral, like I wasn't like getting all upset about it. I'm just like, okay, pull up this on YouTube, you know, like I don't want this for dinner. Okay, so this is where the grocery store is. How much money do you have in your piggy bank? You know what I mean? It's like start talking to them how they're talking to you, but in a loving way. Because if you try to win a pissing contest, you will not win, because ego and ego are just defense and defense. And that brain wave that I said is in the defense, as soon as your child moves in that brain wave, there is no rational thinking there. And so it takes two irrational thinkers now to have an argument. So if one of you decides not to join the argument, and to say you're allowed to have the biggest tantrum you've ever had, but you gotta do it away from the team. Okay? And that's what I say to Luke. He's 3, and in 3 they do shift. They really start to test you because they're trying to test the waters of themselves. They're not really turning into terrorists. They are literally like just figuring out who they are, and they are projecting all of the things. Like my son is a parrot. You know, my husband has quite a dirty mouth, unfortunately. And we're in the other car the other day, and he's trying to get his shoe off because he's really hot in the car. And he's like, God damn it. But it was so perfect context. How can you be mad at the kid, right? It's like they get the context. But I'm like, such a parrot. And how can we be mad at these kids because they're hearing things at school, they're hearing things at home, they're hearing things on TV, and then we're mad at the things that come out of their mouth, yet all they are in that first 7 years is a sponge. And because they're spending so much time in imagination as well, they're not really judging whether what they're saying is right. So you've got to be the driving influences of their behavior. And if you keep service and contribution in your house, then discipline becomes a non-issue. So for me, consequences, everything is about cause and effect, right? If they do something, it will have an effect. That is another thing that I teach them. So I tell my daughter, yes, you can go to this party where there's drinking, because we have that kind of relationship. But what would be the effect of that happening? She's like, well, somebody could get drunk and hurt somebody. And I'm like, do you want to be around that? She's like, well, could I call you and have you pick me up? I'm like, absolutely. But the thing is we talk about the cause and effect. Because a lot of times children are not really thinking about the effect of what they're causing. If you can teach them that every reaction has an action behind it, or every action has a reaction, then they can judge whether or not that choice is good, and they're not trying to make the choice because they think that you're going to say no. Because I have a really, really open relationship with my older girls. I mean, I know everything about their life. I mean, I drove them to the doctor when they needed to get, the things that they need to get on because they're having sex or whatever. And it was a really we discussed it. We discussed cause and effect. We discussed love. We discussed relationships. And there's none of my, there. It's like really neutral parenting. It's like you've got to really find your poker face, okay? Because they can smell it. When you're frustrated or anxious or upset, or if you're upset with your husband, they're going to be more clingy with you because they know you need more love. If they know that you're frustrated at work, they're going to be more clingy because they think that you need more love. Because they're sensing you. They're not listening to you, they're sensing you. So if there's a problem going on anywhere in your life, your kids are totally going to pick up on that and misbehave. Okay? And not necessarily misbehave, but maybe be extra clingy, or maybe be this way, or maybe be this way. So just notice that everything that they're doing is because of how you're parenting or how you're feeling underneath the surface. Because kids are really, I would just say this, all children are born without fear, without judgment, without, without anything in the way that would block them from really just being unconditionally loving people. Everything that is going on with your kids is because they've learned it. That's the bottom line. My daughter learned fear from me, I learned fear from my mom. My daughter was by the time she was 14, she was a germaphobe. Because it's 3 generations of intense fear, you're gonna channel that somewhere, right? And so I actually did some neural pathway reprogramming with her when she was 19 and helped her for all the mistakes that I made that I couldn't go back in time and fix. So. Anybody have any questions? Anything specific?
How do you have, you said you don't really do discipline in your house, it's, service, it's cause and effect and all of that, which makes good sense. But if they truly do something that's harmful or could be harmful to somebody, how do you, and even if you say, if you were playing rough with your little brother, or you guys were wrestling and, you're not paying close attention or whatever, you could have hit his head on the corner of the table and, all of this stuff. But how do you handle something like, especially if they're doing something they know that they're not supposed to be doing that could cause harm? How do you not discipline?
Well, there's a consequence.
Okay.
So, like I have that situation, my 3-year-old, he's pretty rough and tough, but he's 3, so he can get beat up by his older brothers, because my husband I have stepkids too. So, with that situation, if Max knows that he's playing too rough with Luke, and he hurts Luke, then there will be consequences to that. And our consequences in our home is losing things that they love. Okay? So, and I don't mean like taking them away forever, but so losing video games, right? Or losing something that he would really, see, the thing is you gotta kind of hit kids where it hurts, or otherwise they don't learn, because they're stubborn, right? So it's not like go sit on your bed and have a timeout, or think about it, because they'll be like, okay, I thought about it, So, because the thing is, they don't really understand that it's wrong, so they have to be taught that it was wrong. Because they're not really doing it on purpose. Most of the time it's an accident. But they have to learn to be more aware of their surroundings and their personal space. And so by having cause and effect take place, and that's another thing too, is if you say, the next time you hurt your brother, right, when you shouldn't, then you're going to lose your electronics or we're not going to go to that dance class, or we're not going to be able to have that mommy day. Because what I need you to do is I need you to learn that your actions sometimes have an effect on people. And if you do something and it creates something negative, then you have to learn that that's not safe or that's not good. And so it's about, because you got to kind of jab them where they hurt a little bit, and then you have to act on it. This is where most parents fail. Is they're like, you're going to lose this. And then mom forgets about it, and then 10 minutes later they're on it, and they're like, okay mom, whatever, I understand cause and effect. And there's nothing, there's no backbone there. And so even sometimes when it's like it hurts me, I still have to enforce it. Okay? And then they know that if they play too rough, in the back of their mind, it only takes about 3 times for the brain to learn anything. They're going to go, I'm going to not play hard because I don't want to lose my electronics, or I don't want to miss that sleepover, or I don't want to, not be able to cuddle with mom tonight and watch the movie. But it's almost like as soon as they learn it, you don't have to do that anymore. But the discipline that I'm talking about is the stuff that really makes no sense, that really doesn't help them learn at all. And then they're just confused. And then they become adults that don't really understand cause and effect. And that's the kids who grow up entitled and don't want to work a job, and they don't understand the value of helping mom, and they're still on the couch playing video games at 18. And that's just because there has not been any real tough primal rules developed in the house. So like even my son, he's 3 and he plays too hard, and sometimes he hurts his older siblings because he's so rough. And so we're having to teach him that. We're having to teach him that he won't have his sharks at bath time. And that's like his happy joy. And he's like, so yesterday he actually told me, he's like, I'm not going to hurt Max because I need to play with Destiny tonight. That's the name of Dory character. And I'm like, awesome. So, but it was in his mind. You know what I mean? Because it just takes them about, they're so freaking intelligent. We underestimate their intelligence, I think, so much. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
So that just reminded me that, so I have a almost 6-year-old and a 12-year-old, so big space between them. So my littlest has bullied the oldest for the most part, and what's happening now is the oldest is starting to retaliate. So something will happen, and Muriel will run up to me, my littlest, and go, Kai hit me. And at first I'm like, Kai, you can hit him, he's smaller. It was terrible, but what was my thinking? And then what I started realizing was he was doing something to his brother, and Kai just finally was like, I've had enough, and he's whacking him. So I'm like, okay, but it's still not okay, you're still bigger than him, you can really do damage. And I said, you're teaching him that when you're frustrated, you hit.
Right.
So now he's gonna go do it to somebody else. So I've been stuck on that one. Like,
Okay.
I'm not sure how to, because I see why he's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Siblings fighting.
Yeah.
My two oldest ones, exactly the same thing. Jenna will just poke, and not even physically poke. It's more of a emotional poke, and then all of a sudden I hear a whack. Whoa, Jackson just hit me, and then
But they're the victim then.
they're the victim,
Yeah.
but they're getting positive reinforcement. Although I'm all over that because I know how she can be too.
So how do you step in and handle that?
Well, well, not always so bright. Usually I'm like, you go over here, and you go over here, you guys quit talking, don't look at each other, don't play with each other.
Don't look at each other.
Yeah, don't,
Do not engage.
Yes, but then invariably, they end up back together. And so a couple times I told them I was gonna make them a get-along shirt, like a big t-shirt. You have to wear that shit
So
together at the same
that's
time.
going to integrate humiliation. So
Right,
let's
so
don't do that.
I've never done that, so I won't do that.
It is
I didn't think about it that way, interesting, so I won't do that now. But,
And then take a picture and put it on Facebook.
yeah, I definitely would not do that. But, I told Jenna, I've been watching what's going on. I know you've been purposely messing with Jackson for really no reason.
Mhm.
And Jackson, I don't like that you hit her. You need to come to me if she's really bothering you and let me step in. It's not your place to hit her. But I mean, that could be the other way too. Jenna could just be there drawing. She loves to draw and craft and all that. And Jackson will just come over and just when she's coloring, he'll just do this with a paper. So she colors out of the lines and it drives her, it makes her nuts.
Right.
And so he's just as likely to do that. And I don't know how to.
Sorry, I see the kids hear this.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
I don't know how to navigate that so that they have a better, they're still siblings. I know I've fought with my siblings. I remember that, but I would like to not have that as much as I remember that being in our house with my sister and I fighting, and I had two big brothers and then me and the younger sister. I would like to try to not have that.
And why is that happening in the first place? Because it happens with all children and siblings.
It
We
does.
have to just mess with each other.
100%. And the sad news about it is it will continue. But let me show you how you can remove yourself from that. Okay? Because the thing is one more level now that you are living their life for them. You're fighting your battles for them. So let me show you what I do in my house, okay? So Luke will come over and be like, Max, hit me. Now I'm sure that if it got to that point, Luke was doing something really ornery. Because Max is not a hitter.
Right, just like that.
So what I do is I get down to Luke's level and I say, so tell me what happened. And he'll tell me his little 3-year-old version of his story. And I'll say, okay, so what can you go tell Max? How can you handle this? And he'll go, okay. And I'll walk up to Max. Max, I don't like that. Max will be like, sorry. Because the thing is if you can remove yourself from their conflict, then what will happen is they will learn to fight their battles in life. Because what they're actually doing, hi Kara, what they're actually doing is they're learning the art of that challenge and that personal position that they need to have in life. Because what they can't do when they're 18 is call you and say, Mom, I just got fired from my job, the boss is such a jerk, and you call the boss and be like, all right, it's not going to happen. So what I do in my house is I make them work it out themselves, and then they have to come show me how they did it, and then I can help them direct how to do it better next time. So like if it's my older girls and they're fighting over something, still to this day, they're like, but we worked it out. The thing is you have to say, okay, so what's he doing, right? So go tell him that you didn't like that, and then tell him how it made you feel. And if he's like, I don't care, then you can actually you can do cause and effect. Okay, well, then you can step in and go, well, you keep doing this while she's crafting, and it's really bothering her because she's trying to be creative. So the next time you actually do this, I'm going to let her go in your room and take something of yours, because that would be cause and effect. And then what you're doing is you're teaching them to take their power back, because entitled kids don't have power. They need you to be the power. And if they're coming to you to negotiate their arguments, then that's one more thing that you've got to do outside of doing yourself. Like, you've got to be with you. I am not the referee of my children's arguments.
But is that then, if I let Jenna go into Jackson's room and mess with his Legos, does that then set him up to be resentful? Resentful to her, resentful to me, and now I'm getting into the
I'm saying
shame.
if it gets into that place, see, this is what you do. You sit both of them down and go, you know what, I'm really tired of being the referee of you two. You're always at each other. So we're gonna try something different, okay? What we're gonna do is the next time that you mess with each other and you come to me about it, I'm actually gonna just send you back and I'm gonna have you talk to him about what you didn't like, how it made you feel. Now, if the other person doesn't respect you from that, then you bring it to me, and then the three of us are gonna talk about it. Because what's happening is she's coming to you and saying this, and then you're going to him and saying this. There's always two sides. So if it actually has to get to you, you need both of those little faces right there, and all you do is you're helping negotiate what's going on. And so you could say to him, okay, so if she walked in your room right now and messed with this Legos that you've been working on for 6 weeks, how would that make you feel? And he'd be like, well, not very good. Well, the next time you do that, I'm going to let her do that because you have to understand how that feels. Do you see?
Yes.
And then you take yourself away. And what will happen is they'll get into their little conflicts. But this is what I hear down in the basement now. Max, I don't like that. Sorry. Luke is taking his power back. Okay? And he's also has consequences if he does do things. You know, like, and I'll do it in front of him. Okay, now Max is going to come take your fire truck because you keep taking his game controller and hiding it. And then he'll be like, well, I don't like that. And I'll be like, it doesn't feel good, does it? Because everything is about feeling. And he'll be like, no. And then he'll be like, here, Max. So what happens is they start learning compassion for each other and they stop being the enemy of each other. And you're just there to referee if need be and help the negotiation process and show what cause and effect looks like. You don't even have to let her go do it. But just you being okay with her doing that will stop him from doing that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then what will happen is when they get older, they'll be able to fight their own battles. Because a lot of times it'll be, Mom, Dad said this, or Mama, and then you're constantly like going in and trying to fix it when you don't really know the whole story. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Does that help?
Well, and I was just thinking that it probably is occurring so that they can hit that resistance, so they can actually work through it.
They're trying to find their place.
Purposeless.
Because siblings represent society, okay? It's like someone's always pushing your buttons. You gotta learn tools and techniques on how to live your life and speak up. Because a lot of times as adults, people push our buttons and we don't say anything. We don't have a mom to call anymore, but we don't say anything, and therefore we lose our power in really in necessary situations. Like we won't speak up for ourselves, you know, because we weren't taught to fight our own battles as a child. Does that make sense? Does that help?
Yes, it does.
Yes.
So my 7-year-old recently has done 2 things. One, he wants to hold Eva down, and she's obviously can't say it, you know, stop it, doesn't make her feel good, but she will yell and she'll be like, you know, she's and her baby talk, cuss him out.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, leave her alone. And I know as I'm hearing it, I'm like, I feel like that's all I've been saying lately. Leave her alone, quit doing it. She's telling you, leave her alone. You know, like, and I know he's probably doing it for some attention because he's already said that like we go anywhere and she just gets all the attention.
All the attention,
So,
yes.
so I know that, but I don't quite know how to change it. And then the other thing is we'll be like, okay, we're going to the gym now. No. And he's just been very like.
So he is needing your attention. So he is showing you, like again, when he's being a good boy, you're not, you know, you're with the baby, you're doing your work, and so he's getting attention by holding her down and saying no to you. So what I would do is I would recommend this with anyone who has small little ones, is to not forget about your older ones because they really need you more. Believe it or not, your older ones need you more than your little ones, okay? Because they're going through a lot of transitions each year. And 7 is the real important year because at 7 they're supposed to really understand what it's like to be here and understand their place and have self-love and really be integrated into reality by that first 7 years. And as they hit that second 7-year cycle, that's when they learn how to be in society and be around others and know about community. And so if they don't really find their place that first 7 years, then they can get real confused about life. And so what I would recommend is that you have a date with him and you have your special time with him, no matter how busy you are, and that the baby's not there, okay? Stay with your husband, he needs date night, he needs time, and when you're with him that time, I want you to tell him all about the things of how you loved about him when he was a baby. And say, you know, when you were a baby, you did this, and you did this, it was so cute, and I used to rock you like this. Because what he's missing is that intimate relationship relationship that you have with Ava now. And if you can remind him that you had that with him, it will help his self-esteem. So like my 10-year-old, like every night, because we have this 3-year-old and she only gets me, half the year now because her dad lives in California, I literally go into her room and I sing her all of her lullabies when she was a baby. And that is our time to let her know that she's still my baby, because they really need that. And just because he's a fast-moving little boy does not mean that he doesn't need that intimacy with mom. And then you say, okay, so if you go to the gym with mommy, then tonight before we go to bed, we'll do this. Because he really does need to learn about being that team. And then when you've got him back into your good graces of unconditional love, then you can teach him about teamwork. And then what you'll notice is he'll start taking care of the baby. Because you didn't forget him as a baby, so now he can love the baby. Does that make sense? But you can't forget him in this. Because what he will do is he will secretly resent her, and he will be angry with you, and he will start acting out. So it's almost like, especially if you've got kids under 7, you really need to keep that little babiness with them somehow, and really make them know and remind them how special they are and how proud of them that they are, that they can do this, 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 and this. You know how helpful you are when you bring me the diapers, you know how much I appreciate. So there's another parenting class that I do, and it's called the 6 Basic Needs of a Child. And it's certainty, and it's value, and it's contribution, and it's unconditional love, and there's 2 more that I can't remember. Amber would have them. And anyways, I go through all of them, and it's the certainty element that children will start to create conflict with you. When they're not certain of their place in their family, when they're not certain of how you feel about them, they will start having a hard time.
It makes sense because our teenager is home from college for the summer. This has been recent, so he's,
See the dynamic
so he is
is
definitely becoming uncertain. Now he's not the big helper, he's like in the middle, so that makes sense why the dynamic, and then obviously.
Yes, they need to have certainty at every stage. So if you have another baby, you have to go in and be like, you are the most awesome 4-year-old. Do you know that at 4 you can do this? This little baby can't do that. So because they're looking at this, mom's intimate with this baby, and now I'm chopped liver because I can go poop by myself, right? It's like literally, it's like growing up is I'm losing love by growing up. Now that I can do this, which mom wanted me to do, now it's like, where is she? So you really want to make sure that if you have a little one, that you are really giving that middle or that older one still that unconditional, like mommy intimate time. And it doesn't have to be so frequent, it just needs to be your time. Like Maddie and I we have dates. We go out and get our pedicures and our manicures, no babies. And it's like, it's our time. And she doesn't have to help me with Luke and help me put Luke in the car. You know how they are. They're so helpful, but they really resent a lot of that. So, and that's where a lot of the sibling fighting is coming from, is they are secretly like pissed at you and pissed at them, and so they're getting their aggressions out with each other, right? So it's really important to spend one-on-one time with each kid, and especially if you've got one that you're really, really like has codependency issues, because the other ones are like, well, we're not so codependent, but we really could use mom right now. But they won't say it. They'll just have a tantrum somewhere else. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
My middle one doesn't, I don't feel like he hears his tone. Like, well, we have a rule, you have to be respectful to everybody, and so we try to designate that you don't use a mean tone or attacking tone. Use kind words, we try to build people up, don't tear them down. He's constantly tearing her down, and I'll say, do you hear yourself? And what you say, would that be something that you want somebody to say to you in that tone? And you're like, well, I'm sorry! He goes, that big defense. And so I don't know, how do I address something like that to where there's a consequence for disrespect in that tone?
So is he just this way towards your daughter? And how old is she?
5.
Okay. Now,
He does that to me too.
right.
So I guess it's not just.
Is it dad too? And
Yeah, he doesn't really care.
so it's all you're all getting the
Except for
tone.
school. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So it's probably an over-nurturing issue a little bit. It's probably like there's not enough contribution. One thing that you can do is you can record him and show him how he talks. Or you can get a little tougher and actually talk to him in that voice. Talk right back. And then say, so how does it feel when I talk to you like that? And he'll be like, well, it hurts. And I'll be like, okay, so the next time that you talk to us that way, then you've got to remove yourself from the group. But you got to enforce it.
with that too.
Okay?
Because I can't get him to another space. He will physically be so strong, like hold on the door frames and kick and scream. And so I've tried removing all of us from him in that room, and he just is right with us.
Okay, so it sounds like two things, chemical imbalance. Okay, so is he having any allergies?
Not that I know of, no.
What's he eating?
He usually eats pretty healthy, like fruits and vegetables and meats and,
Is he eating processed foods at all, sugars?
yeah.
Okay, so that's a chemical imbalance, okay, when you just get to that point of extreme aggression. One thing that I would do is just be stronger than him and get a lock for the outside of his door. It'll take 3 times, he'll break it. 3 times.
I did that, he went all over.
Okay, so,
Clean up.
yeah, I know, you gotta call his bluff. Like, that's the thing, is this is not easy. This conscious parenting is not easy. And the thing is first and foremost, you have to watch his diet, because if he's really, really behaving like that, it is a chemical imbalance. Another thing that you could do is he sleeping okay? Is he having night terrors?
No.
Wetting the bed?
No.
Okay. Does he sleep with you?
No.
He's sleeping okay by himself?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when do you notice that he gets like this?
And he's overtired.
Okay, so overtired, and so I'm gonna tell you this, it's chemical imbalance. It's not a behavioral issue. He's getting too far past that point of being able to be rational. So it's overtired or overstimulated. So overstimulation can come from white sugar, and overtired is like the point of no return. What I would do is I would just make sure that we get him in bed early, or I would do an Epsom salt bath, right? And let him know that you understand that he's tired, right? And a lot of times they just really need attention. So holding him, and holding him almost like you're swaddling him, and telling him that you understand that he's tired and that you're just going to be with him. But if it just gets to that point, then you can put him in his room, and if he poops all over the room, then you can actually have him clean it up. He's 5. I mean, it's going to suck for you. But every action needs to have an understanding of the reaction that it caused, because what he's doing is he's having a tantrum, you're removing him, he's pooping all over the room, and then you're cleaning it up. So he never sees any of the aftermath of his behavior, because we're all just coming and cleaning it up after. And that's a tough one. That's one that I would probably work more one-on-one with you, that issue. Is that happening a lot?
No. Well, okay, like the disrespect part?
Yes.
The pooping was when he was like 3. That was
Okay.
awesome, but he's 10 now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But
So it's way different ballgame. Way different ballgame. He would not poop in the room now.
no.
Okay.
No.
Sounds like okay.
No. But my 5-year-old doesn't want to sleep by herself.
Okay.
And she's the one that, she's fighting bedtime, and she will attack back to him. Those two, I think they're so similar that they conflict so much.
Right.
And he wants to be the parent to her, and I say, no, I am the parent. I'm here to help you be safe and feel comfortable. It's okay. I can take care of this. And but I also try to get their what do you need? What are you wanting to hear? Why are you acting like this to her? I just don't know what to do with this.
What is his answer?
Well, I want her to let me watch TV when I want to watch,
Does he have enough boundaries from her? Does he have enough alone time from her? Because he's 10.
How do I know how much that is?
Well, it's kind of like Miro and Kai. It's like, we also have to respect that our children are getting older, and that they need privacy from their younger siblings, because it is really hard for them. They're tired, they go to school, they do their thing, and the last thing they want to do is have to share their space with someone who wants to do what they want to do. And, it's always the cuter one that gets the more of the attention. It's like the littler one. It's like, just sit with your sister, just play with your sister. That gets really frustrating for them, and they will start acting out on her. So what you need to do is make sure that you're giving him his alone time, that he does not have to be bothered by her. And if he talks back, I would have him contribute more. Like the next time you talk back, you're going to have to, have a list of chores, okay? Because contribution, if someone is talking bad to you, if your child is saying they hate you, they're out of alignment when it comes to contribution. They need to contribute more, they need to be more of a team, but they also need to learn, just like you need your alone time. Like he needs to have, he's allowed to watch the show, and you need to let him know that you're not gonna let her bother him when you're watching this show. And because he unconditionally loves his sister, he's just angry. He's like using her as as his, or you as that force of showing you how upset he is. But if you respect his time more and respect his needs more, then you'll notice he'll play with her more. So it's like, okay, he's watching his show, so for the next hour, I'm not gonna let her bother you. I'm gonna give you your alone time if you can help me with this and this after dinner, okay? Because it's contribution that's low, he's talking back to you. And is he still losing it where you just have to remove him? Okay, so that's contribution and chemical imbalance. You're gonna have to watch white sugar with him. And you're gonna have to watch colors, like yellow number 5, red number, whatever, anything you can't pronounce on a box, don't put it in his body. He's extra sensitive. He's the new kids. These kids are extra sensitive and they get really, really out of chemical imbalance if they're overtired and overstimulated. It's their nervous system that gets overstimulated. Okay, so one of the things that we do for 7 years and up is we actually do the meditation device, and there's all of these children programs. So, and it teaches their brain how to go back into theta, because 7 is when theta stops moving into your brain waves and you start moving into your ego brain. And after that, usually we'll put the kids on the meditation device so it can calm them. Aaron and Craig's kids are on it, right? You guys use it?
We tried to use it every night before bed. We tried an app called Mindspace,
Uh-huh.
and he really loves that. But it's not, I guess we haven't been consistent enough with that.
Consistency is your job. You guys are doing the love, you're doing the work, but you're overdoing it. You're doing so much that you're not being consistent with the things that you need and want. It's kind of like, it's really hard the first few times to get them to contribute when they haven't been, contribution. I know, but you know what? Don't take that personally. Don't take it personally when they talk back. Just let them get into the practice, and then it will become natural. Because most of the problems that you're having is that you don't want to deal with it. And when you deal with it, you got to deal with it about three times to 3 weeks of just staying on it, being the authority, tough loving, but from a place of unconditional support, putting them back into contribution, making sure they have their alone time, making sure that they understand they're part of a team. Because what really happens is when your older kids see the little ones get more attention, then they're at conflict with that, and now they're at conflict with you, and now they're separating themselves from the family unit. And then that's when you have a kid that's really going to be imbalanced. He's doing good in school though? Good. So he's probably in contribution in school, and he's out of contribution at home. Anytime someone is being mean to you, there's this imbalance of contribution. Like you have that one-sided friendship where you call them and all they want to do is talk about themselves, and it's like that's a one-sided friendship. You don't want a one-sided friendship with your kid where it's all about them. They need to know how hard you work, and that's not you putting your guilt and shame on them, like, oh, look how hard I work. You're like, this is what it takes to live, and let me show you. The one thing that I have a problem with the way that modern school is taught is we don't teach kids what it takes to live. We don't teach kids how to take care of their bodies, how to take care of their emotional needs. We don't give them any tools for nurturing. We put them all in testing that makes them all anxious and worried. And then we tell them, don't do that, don't say that, don't feel that, don't do that. And then like my 19-year-old, I remember she was 18 when she graduated, and she had a 4.0. She was that people pleaser, that person that was just straight A's, go to her room, she studied for Spanish at 2 a.m. And when she graduated, she's like, okay, so now Mom, what do I do? And I'm like, well, we go to college and we open a bank account and we get a job. And she's like, don't know how to do any of that stuff. I mean, none of life skills are taught at school, which means that you guys are responsible until schools change to teach life skills. How to conflict with other people, healthy, how to take care of their bodies, what's in food. At 7 years old, I would start teaching kids about chemicals in food and just what tastes better, what feels better, do little science experiences, and just integrate them into learning more about nutrition, because they should know what they're putting in their body, because I'm going to tell you, processed food tastes a lot better than health food, and if they get accustomed to it, processed food's a neurotoxin. So you're going to be messing with behavior as soon as you put a preservative in your body at any time, so it makes life difficult. Plus all of the stuff that, they add to food now and process this, and it's just, our new kids can't handle that. And white sugar is probably the one that I would break immediately from our kids that are real sensitive. But, it's kind of like my daughter, she's like, Mom, I went from a test score to a credit score as soon as I graduated high school. And I was like, totally. She's like, society doesn't care about me. So I had to teach her how to open a bank account, how to manage a checkbook, how to manage money, how to apply for a job, how to write a resume. None of that is taught in school. So there's so many things that we think that they're learning that they're not learning. And one of the things is how to get along with the team, how to get along with each other. They're going to be working in groups. We are literally raising children to be individuals instead of a group, because everybody is isolating from each other because they don't feel like anybody understands what they're going through. So it's contribution, it's teamwork, it's listening, it's letting them feel, it's giving him alone time, and then having him be part of the group where he's contributing. And I think getting him off white sugar would change his world, which he's not going to want. So you can do it in baby steps. I'm a big advocate of still allowing children to have food that they love with different ingredients. So like we bake cookies, it's just got coconut flour instead of white flour. We're still doing all of those things. We're eating popcorn, but it's organic, things like that. So we're not taking anything away from children. We're just teaching them cause and effect. And then when they get old enough to say, well, why can't I have this popsicle? Then you can show them what red number 5 does to the liver and the brain and be like, do you really want that? And then let them make that choice.
We try and do like low carb for a week because my husband was thinking, hey,
Paleo.
check this out. And he is such a perfectionist and he was such an extreme, he freaked out about what to eat. And then we gave him choices and he didn't want any of that and he was like.
So too much too fast.
Probably.
Yeah. Everything's baby steps with kids. That means don't go home and like go, okay, everyone, everything's changing. It's like literally start with baby steps. First, just take the white sugar, which means bring the regular cookies in, the good cookies. Don't tell them what's in it.
I don't only use coconut sugar.
Coconut sugar is good. Yeah.
That's the only thing.
Where is he eating processed food?
School, he's at school right now. When we eat out.
Okay. Does he have
Yeah,
tummy
grandma's.
issues? Tummy issues?
No.
Nothing? He's all going to the bathroom okay?
As far as I know.
Headaches?
Yes, nothing.
Okay. Headaches are self-pressure. He's putting a lot of self-pressure on himself. So his conflict, I can guarantee, is coming from himself. He's way too hard on himself, and he's taking it out on you guys.
Yes.
So we would work with him one-on-one on how we can help him, because that can turn into a migraine. Migraines can turn into really big issues. So headaches are always about self-pressure, putting way too much pressure on himself. So where can we help him ease that? Where can we help him be kinder to himself? Why is he a perfectionist? Is he mirroring you? Is he trying to control everything? So what is he showing you about yourself? And then you'll be able to kind of like, okay, then and we can get together and we can kind of come up with that. Because self-pressure turns into self-hate. So if he's saying he hates you or he's mad at you, he's really mad at himself. So that's just a cry for help.
Is the gratitude stuff that you talked about earlier?
Oh, yeah.
That will help with self-pressure.
Yeah. And if your kiddos got to 7 and didn't learn self-love, you better start teaching them about self-gratitude. Because they've got to connect with love, and they've got to find ways to love themselves. And it doesn't have to be through you loving them. It needs to be like, this is amazing, you're so good at this. And then encourage them in those directions. Don't encourage them in what you want for them, encourage them where they shine. Build them up. It's like a coach. It's like a coach is going to build someone's greatness and help them where they're weak, not point out their weaknesses and ignore their greatness. We do that as parents a lot, and it's really about building them up, and it's not about creating arrogant kids, because they won't be. If they're in alignment with giving and receiving, they'll be happy, humble kids. But if it's self-pressure that he's going through, then he's probably got some self-love issues, and he's just projecting onto you guys.
So is it overkill to do that daily with gratitude?
Heck no.
Like start off our day.
Yeah, and you can even start out with just gratitude for his life, and then have him directed in. Because if he doesn't like himself, he will not say it. He will be like, and then you will know that it's a self-love issue. And clinically, we're supposed to really, in a healthy family dynamic, we should really integrate self-love by the time we're 7. We should really love who we are. And if they don't, then we're going to have adults that don't love themselves. And then that's when we fall into addiction patterns and all kinds of stuff. So we want to watch that really early on, and we can talk about that more one-on-one. So any other questions before we break? Was this helpful? Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, so good meeting you guys finally, and I'm sure you guys have heard this before, but I want to keep doing this, but I like to pick a different topic, and we can do one nutrition class. You know, one thing that I will tell you about your kiddos is do not let them drink tap water, okay? The reason why is because tap water has 33% pharmaceuticals in it. The government cannot get the pharmaceuticals out of our drinking water. It's going to do the bare minimum to get what it can. And so our kids are drinking, you know, birth control. They're drinking, you know, Xanax. They're drinking a lot of things that can mess with their chemical brain. And that brain, that child brain is so important for long-term health, the health of the brain. And pharmaceuticals that were made for an adult, given to a child, can be really, really dangerous. And so spring water, you know, even distilled water, if you don't have a system, you can literally cook it and then serve it cold if you want to do that. But we do reverse osmosis or alkaline water for our kiddos. Water is like water and white sugar. I mean, I'm not telling you to change your world, but if you could change those two things, what you'd see is a big improvement. And for your daughter who's not sleeping, you've got to teach her how to self-nourish. So self-protect. So it's your job to protect her, right? Your dad's job to protect her, so she doesn't know how to do that for herself. So we've got to teach her some self-soothing things, some things that really make her feel safe. Like find out what makes her feel safe in her life, and then pile them up on her bed at night. You know, and there's a whole bunch of other things that I can share with you. Because actually, me too. I was afraid to sleep. Audrey, do you have a question?
Oh, so like even using a filter on your, like that just helps get some of the other crap out. That's not
If that's all
helping.
you can do, that's fine. But you know, it's best if most of your drinking water is coming from a source that's not just filled with pharmaceuticals, because you know we're just seeing so many fertility issues these days, and you know, and that all started when you know our water was so contaminated. So you know, and headaches too. That's hormonal imbalance. So it's just a lot of this comes from the water. Do you have a question?
Well, is the new can, you think?
That's good. That's energized water. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just those pharmaceuticals. I mean, I'm not even going to get into the fluoride today, but you know, just getting the kids drinking good, clean water and not letting them drink anything. Like I have a rule, they can do like juice and like the stevia soda, like with the pizza, like on the weekends. So we live 80-20. So 80% of the time we all try to eat well, and 20% of the time if there's birthday cake, I'm not going to freak out. You know, I want my kids to have it. We order pizza, so it's not like it has to be perfect. Moderation is everything. Self-love and moderation. That's it. That's like the trick to happy kiddos. So, all right, guys. I don't have anything else unless you have any other questions.